And call this meeting. Okay, we're going to call the meeting of the Executive Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Director Weber,
Here.
President Costa,
Here.
and Director Rice is running a little late, so we'll mark him as absent and then record the time he gets there. Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you. So we're at public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within the committee scope, including items on or not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers?
I have no speaker cards. Anyone online wishing to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand feature. No public comments. Thank you.
Thank you. So that'll take us to the consent agenda. Any questions or comments on consent?
No, sir.
All right. Can we get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
A motion, I'll second. Motion, I'll second.
Great. Director Weber
Aye.
and President Costa.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. That takes us to presentations and discussion items. First item is the strategic plan update. Chief Development Officer Jeff Fry. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Executive Committee. I'm here to give you three presentations tonight. Collectively, they're designed to tell you a story of what I like to call proof of concept. So the idea is to walk you through the three projects and show you how they build on each other, right? So we're going to start with the board strategic plan that we started work on. Then we're going to narrow down on a very specific goal area called the comms plan. And then we're going to show you a project where we've used both of the ideas that we're developing in the strategic plan and the comms plan to give you an update on what we're calling a critical issue. So collectively, it tells a story, what better looks like, and hopefully informs everyone where we're going. So I want to take you back to December during the strategic planning workshop and take you back to the two main ideas, my takeaways from that day. And the first issue was traditional strategic planning does not work for Metro Fire. Words on a page are difficult, especially in strategic planning, to translate into action. And that essentially creates kind of this non-starter. So as the fire service, everyone's very used to seeing a problem and pursuing that problem and taking care of it. That's pretty hard to do when it's conceptual, right? So problem number one. The second issue is how Metro Fire has historically made large organizational changes doesn't really work anymore. So in our inception, you had a really good idea. You took it to the fire chief, you got permission to run with it, and you're off and running. And that's kind of how you built your reputation. We're kind of to a point we were talking today. The laws have drastically changed. The resources to solve the problems that are left are more significant. So these are big decisions that really have to include the board, the governing body. So again, this new idea of this executive committee is really trying to solve those two things. So really important. So President Costa, as a matter of order, I think I told you I've got three presentations around 18 to 20 minutes for the first one. The second one's around 12. The third one's about 5 with no comments. So we're gonna have to play this by ear. We have about an hour to get through this. So we'll work through it together. All right. Okay, so first issue, the strategic plan update. Before I get started, I really need to thank Carmen.
Sorry, really quick.
Sure.
Director Weber.
We need to recognize Rice.
Director Rice has arrived at 4:03 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
No worries. So I want to thank Carmen Delgado for the work on this document. We had a lot to do to take the words and thoughts from the strategic planning section in December. I'm good at words and putting it together. I can't do what's in front of you. It's just not in my skill set. Carmen has done an amazing job and paid attention to a lot of detail to get this to where it is. I also truly appreciate ICS's help in helping me craft and think about strategy and how we're going to meet the executive committee's intent. So thank you to those groups. With that, I'm not going to go through this document. It's why we wrote it down. I'm going to highlight a couple of things. We're going to get straight into the presentations. One thing I do want to bring to your attention is this new vision statement. There was a lot of dialogue in the work session about rewriting the vision statement. I know there's a lot of concern specifically from Director Rice and Chief House, I agree. The history and culture of the fire service is very important to the fire service. So I saw as I was doing some homework, I saw in a document from another fire agency, I think it might have been at the National Labor, that gave homage to the past, but also looked to the future. Here's how they combined the two thoughts. So I kept the old one and saying we got to respect where we come from. We need to acknowledge it, but we also need to look forward. If this meets your intent, great, we can leave it. If you don't like it, it comes off the document just as fast. So just wanted to highlight that for you all. This is the section of the document that ICS created. It's what they call the operational scan. It's an assessment of our external environment and our internal environment. And their intent is to, every problem that the board is going to start working on, they want this to be the starting point. I do want to take a second here and talk about what I call the problem. And it's represented in these two statements: a cultural or organizational cohesion challenge. I appreciate what we've been trying to find the words around this, right? And I kind of brought it up on where I started. I don't know that we have a cultural cohesion problem. I think we have, at the staff level, like you all say all the time, you spend 20 or 25 years in the firehouse, you're taught to be aggressive in solving problems, especially on the fire ground, and you see a problem, you fix a problem, and this agency rewards that. And then you get to a point when you rise up the ranks where the rules change. There's lots of laws out there, and you can't see a problem and fix it. So that is a communication issue, to Director Weber's point. We need a way to talk about those things, sort them out, and recognize that having a culture is important, especially for the fire service, but we got to add this element. The second piece
Sorry.
Sure.
Quick question on that piece. What's the board's role to ensure that?
So I think it's this executive committee.
Okay.
So as we, and I'll get there in the presentation, I've taken comments from all three of you, and I think there's a 3-step process that, to your point, is a collaborative process where we get on the same page. There's going to be bumps and bruises, but we have to do it together.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeff.
Second part of this is this integrated planning and governance gap. Like I said, we like individual initiative. We need to put that into a planning process, and we call it the governance gap. The governance gap is the board. You are our governing body. You have a lot of authority to make decisions. We need to include you in this process. That's what this executive committee is trying to do. On page 20, Director Rice, you specifically asked that we incorporate the enduring goals. Thank you for that reminder. They are here and well delineated. So I'll scroll right down. This is probably the biggest graphic and where I spent a lot of my time. In my 10 years with Metro Fire, from day one, I've been asked to work on strategic planning projects. What that 10 years has taught me is the really hard way to do strategic planning. So there's a lot of details I think we'll get into in time. My ask of the executive committee is to allow me to pass on my lessons learned and get to better and faster. And the short answer to this dialogue is, when you're tackling difficult questions, there is an order in which you need to address the issues, because there is a cascading effect. So I just want to make that point.
Thank you, Jeff. We have a quick question. Director Rice?
Jeff, can we connect offline in the area of fiscal stewardship? I want to get an idea, not for here, but just you and I.
Absolutely. So like I said, lots of details here. There will be time for us to work through them, but I just want to put this on the radar. Scrolling down, we go a little bit deeper into those, what I call the 5 domains. Another takeaway from the December meeting was we don't do strategic planning. Things have not been incorporated. We have done quite a bit in the last 6 years. I wanted to bring that to the board's attention and show you the work that we have done. I think by highlighting it this way, you can also see gaps. If you study this document closely, you will see we still have some work to do. And they happen to be the problems that are facing the board today. So there, I did my best to document what I know. So again, well documented, things to go through. The question is going to come up in my next presentation. Why do we start with communications? This is why. It's a big hole in the organization. We really haven't tackled this at a agency level. So I just want to make that note. The remainder of this document was essentially the 5-year plan that the board developed in December. We have taken all of that input. We have the notes. We put it here where each goal has a cover page. And at the bottom of it, this is a cheat sheet for the executive committee where I said I've learned a lot of things while I've been here. If you're going to tackle something like care for all our people, you got to get your subject matter experts in your room. And then there are cascading effects, like I said. So at the bottom, those colors directly relate to those 5 domains I told you about. And then these are the experts you're going to need in the room to get to the right answer. So again, just trying to create a how-to manual for all of us. Behind the cover page is the direct information that we got from the board with the desired outcome and the indicators of achievement. We did clean up the wording. We put it in verb tense, kind of corrected some of those things, but we did not change the intent of the board. So behind the, we're still looking for some pictures here, but behind the goals and objectives, we did have the strategies, tactics, and who's going to lead. Again, this is blank for a reason, because this is going to be executive committee led. That's the new process that we're using. So with that, I will scroll all the way down and give you an example under communications. That's where we started. Chief Mitchell and I have been in front of this committee, working in the communication space. The executive committee, identified 4 strategies to accomplish these indicators of achievement. They are better communications between the Office of the Fire Chief and the board, 522, internally and with our external partners. You can see the tactics are fairly well developed here and assigned, getting a little bit ahead of us, but we're trying to move at the board's pace. They are better defined for the 2 projects that we have been working with you on, but I thought it was important to bring you a pretty complete example. So we went ahead and filled in some of the strategy and tactics for the other 2 as well as kind of a building block. So again, I want to get to the presentation that kind of summarized this. If we can transition off the document itself and move to the presentation, I think with a common understanding, this should go pretty quickly.
While we're bringing up the presentation, any questions
No,
from the
sir.
committee? All right.
I read through that Tom Clancy novel.
So the presentation is, again, fairly simple, very high level, intended to be used. We talk about communications with different groups within the organization. Got to switch to the clicker here. It's essentially built in 5 pieces. What's different from every other strategic plan is right in the middle of it is a how-to manual. Eventually, we should probably move this to a procedure or policy document, but as we try something new, I want it right in the middle for all to see. We got to get to the better. Current state, we have, I don't want to say complete and ready for implementation, but we have enough information, I think, to meet the board's intent. You will see in my next presentation, this would need to go to the full board for awareness and ultimately action. Secondly, the structured development phase and the other goal areas, we need to start tackling those. This is totally up to the executive committee on timing, how we tackle them. I would like to give you something to think about. It's organized by goals. I think how the issues have been presented to the board is not necessarily by goal, but by issue. So way that we built the document, the board can take them on either way. You can go goal by goal by goal, or you can take a topic like an issue and then see what is the implications for all those 5 areas. So this is the slide I was referring to, board, and to your point, President Costa. How are we going to do this? I call it the 3 rules, and I attribute the rules to all 3 of you. The facilitated working sessions, call it the Director Weber rule. Good ideas can come from anywhere. We need to be able to evaluate them, process them. However, the good idea has to be vetted by some subject matter experts. How do we connect the two? The Director Rice rule, at some point in time, opinions and what better looks like has to become a shared fact. So how do we then take these ideas and then create a common ground to get to the better? And then the third rule, the Director Costa rule, is strategy development has to be a collaborative process. We all have lenses, we all have expertises. We need to bring them because that's the only way we're going to get to the right best answer. So simple 3-step process. The executive committee is in control. Our job as administrators is to help you through that process. So again, we just want to introduce a planning cadence and timeline. I'm not entirely, we don't have direction from the board here yet. Like I said, you can tackle it by goal. You can tackle it by issue. It's totally up to you. We just wanted to give you some idea what a cadence could look like. And finally, we try to anticipate what the questions were going to be. These are all centered around who are the decision makers, how is this going to work, and what is the timing? My answer to all those questions is the executive committee. That's the end of my presentation.
All right. Questions from the committee? Director Weber.
Thank you. So you have 2 more presentations?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll wait until the end. Thank you.
Director Rice, any questions?
And good for right now. I appreciate how you invested us.
I'll just say really quick, I know we've got to get to the next piece, which I think is going to be important because it really ties into the strategic plan and some of the examples you use, but well thought out. It's really taken that collaborative conversation that we had with all of our partners and the board. And I know it's a struggle to get everyone in the same place, and we weren't. And even the framework that came out, we weren't. And so you and the team, you guys have taken a lot of feedback. You've taken these documents and you try to bring us back to where we should be as a district and really engaging the board in this, which I thank you. And some of those tactics that were in the communication part, which I know we'll talk about, I think are going to be important for moving us to the next level. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
So with that, we'll move on to the second item.
Sure. Part number 2 of proof of concept. So the board has asked us to start with the board strategic plan, said, hey, we really got to get to this communication issue very quickly. So we started working on both of them in tandem. So this is, like I said, we took a leap of faith here. We have a lot of information from the board. I think some of you have seen some of the documents I've written. They're quite lengthy, hundreds of pages. I think that's for internal alignment. So this tries to summarize all that work into 5 slides. So bear with me. Why do we need a communication strategy? Well, I showed you in the board strategic plan. We haven't tackled this. My takeaway is we're very good at what we do operationally. Things like communications, some of those issues are second thoughts. I've also mentioned that communications is like the part-time job of certain people here, but it's not an intentional strategy in communications for the board in its entirety. So this kind of lays out where we think we are today and where we need to get to relatively quickly to accomplish the board's mission. So this is, again, lots of pages of information. We try to drill it down into the simplest of concepts. We have a 3-part strategy to meet the board's intent. You've heard from me and you will hear from Deputy Chief Mitchell in the regular session about emerging trends. The board has asked for pre-awareness of anything that could land on the board's doorstep. We have thought about, traditionally that has been budget or policy. Like I told you, it's wider than that. We took a stab at this a couple of months ago. We did receive feedback. You're going to see version 2 tonight. We're already working on version 3. I see the heads nodding. So we're well underway with trying to keep the board informed in these emerging trends. Critical issues, I define them as external politics or external issues that have internal consequences. So we talk about APOT, behavioral health, MIH, all of those things. That is an active workload that we need to constantly be working on, largely are policy based, right? Politically based in that regard. So a level and body of work that we need to take seriously. I'm calling it trust and transparency. I've called it a number of things. We're going to go with that one. This is the flip of that. These are internal issues that can have external consequences if we don't get on top of them. So I think when I hear 522 talk about these things we got to get ahead of and what that is doing to morale, I equate that to our trust and transparency as an agency. And then I put all of the board strategies into this one. So this has had to come together as we're communicating with the board, with our public, with our members, with the 522 partners. All of that has to align and be coordinated. Collectively, those three issues should lend us institutional credibility. It's a simple idea. It's going to be hard to execute. We have some ideas where we want to start, and that's how we're going to do this. You know, going back to what Director Costa said is we're going to try, we're going to work on it, and we're going to adjust. So very simple strategy. So the plan is built. Planning, writing a planning document is one thing. Implementing it and executing it is a whole separate thing. So you all have heard me, we don't really have a comms team. So we are quickly realigning. I think Chief House several weeks ago allowed us to realign the Planning and Development Division with Community Relations in an effort to move this as much forward as we could. The execution and where we know we can start, like emerging trends, those things have already started. But there will be additional follow-up that has to happen with this executive committee, and it has to happen in that planning loop. And again, this is the evaluate, adjust, let's try again, right? So we'll be working with the board for this for the next while. I will say we don't know where to start. We don't have a team, so I allow for the 12 to 18 month implementation. And we're going to pick a starting spot, get to work, and we'll let you know what's working, what's not. I've been thinking a lot about this slide. And I'm going to start with shared ownership. Different thoughts, different approach. I've been really focused on voice and visibility lately. I've been reading a lot of material from elected officials, from governing bodies. My point in saying that is I think we as an administrative staff need to give this board a voice. You guys are very visible. You're out there, you're doing your work. It's up to us to tie the voice to that. I think that's slightly separate from the fire chief's voice and visibility. Similar purposes, different approaches maybe, I don't know. It's just a thought. And then I will also create a distinction from the deputy chiefs. So as a professional communications team, I think our job is to use that voice and those abilities from this group to create a single message that is the One Metro Fire. That's what my vision is for this communications team. Again, it's an idea. We're going to have to work through it. That's just kind of what's running through my head right now. We will need resources. I don't know what those resources are. I don't even know what to ask for. I'm very aware of where we are right now with constrained budgets and all of those things going on. So I want to be realistic about what that first step is. And so Director Costa, you're always asking, how can I help? A couple of places here. We are going to have to figure that out. I don't know if we're going to get it right or not. It needs to be a discussion. We as an executive staff have troubles making organizational decisions. We tend to do two things. Just try to absorb it with what we have. And we're finally to a point where we're not able to do that anymore. The second issue is what we've done for the last couple of years, and I don't think it's fair either, is we gathered everybody's opinions about what are your ideas, what resources you need. Here's $30 million in position requests and $40 million in budget requests. That's not fair to the board. So it's got to be more targeted. This is the right way to do it. Somehow we have to get this information out of this executive committee to the full board for decision making. Yes, no, we need more information. It is what it is. You are our governing body. We need a way to do that better, more efficiently. So that's all I can speak to right now. I think we have some work to do internally to figure out what that is. And at the right time, you know, the recommendation at the bottom there is basically ask this executive committee, are we on the right track? Are we talking about the right things? And at some point in the near future, do we take this to the full board for discussion? I believe that is the end of this presentation.
All right, let's stay on this slide for a second and see if we have any questions. Questions from the board?
No, I'll wait until the end. Thank you.
Okay. So let me just confirm, Jeff, before we move to the next piece. So as far as board direction and direction tonight from the executive committee, we're looking at these three recommendations for these three boxes, correct? Essentially bringing these back. You're looking for us to say, we're on the right track. Let's get to the board. Let's bring something back to the board just to check and move to the next step. Is
Right,
that correct?
so
Okay.
I'll go back to the December meeting. The intent even with the board strategic plan, vet it here and then do the reality check, for lack of better terms, with the full board, right? So this is supposed to be that intermediary gap to see, are we just way out on the wrong path? So what I'm asking is, are we close enough to where we can go to a full discussion?
Mhm.
Going back to the board strategic plan, the process you all outlined then, we do owe the full board an update and a check-in. So that's the next for that document.
Yep.
With this one is when we as staff and work with the fire chief, when we develop a recommendation on how to move this project forward, are we close enough with your intent, executive committee, to move that to discussion with the full board? That's what the feedback I'm asking for
Okay.
today.
And that's why I wanted to check, because before we moved on, I want to make sure we're giving the right direction as far as where we stand today. So I know you guys wanted to hold your comments, but is there anything relative to that direction that you would like to provide right now?
Yes. So
Director Weber?
first and foremost, I want to thank you for the opportunity from January to this point to have one-on-one discussions and discussions with the executive team here or committee. My personal opinion, sitting in your office going through this document, I think you're spot on. And with Chief Mitchell, what he shared with me the other day with the communication plan, absolutely exactly what we have been talking about. You're hearing not only us individually, but collectively. And this is exactly what I envisioned happening. And again, not that anybody's done anything wrong in the past, but you've got some forward thinkers up here and I love it. I love nothing better than to be told you can't do that because we've never done it before. So giving the opportunity to work with you personally with this, not only the executive team, but individually. Again, you're having freedoms I don't believe you've ever had. We appreciate all the work. I know it's a ton of work, but this is exactly where we need to be right now at the basic level and where you are forecasting us to be and to get to. So thank you for all of that. That's my personal opinion.
Thank you, Director Weber. Director Rice?
Thank you, Mr. President. Jeff, thank you. I've been through and we've all been through a lot of these. And as I listened, there's a couple things that really stood out to me. And I look at the shared ownership piece, requires board and executive co-leadership. I would stick at least the executive board level of local in there too, because whether you agree, disagree, it doesn't really matter. It's a huge stakeholder. I know that you get that. The one for me that I'm looking at this as a board member going, I need some accountability in this. As a board member, I'm going to have some portions of this that I have to execute, and how and who do I answer to make sure that I'm holding up, my end of a bargain for the residents of Division 7. So for me, I was kind of I was looking at it going, okay, what's my responsibility piece and how do I grab a hold of that? The resources piece, it's like anything in the fire department, and you characterized it so well because it's organizationally, I don't even know the right term. We all do this. We absorb everything we can until we're ready to break. I mean, I led a large statewide organization. We did the same thing. Absorbed until we couldn't do any more. And I think we're at that point, which is going to cause the board to have a further discussion on finance and stuff like that, because there's so much revenue that comes into this organization. that we can count on or that we should count on. And that's not necessarily your job to find it. I think that is our job to set a path to try to find it, to give the tools to work with. I'm looking at this going, this is you and 2 or 3 other staffers to make it really work well. And I'm probably short sailing it. The priority piece is that one almost to me is the easiest one to deal with because, you know, we talk it through, we set our priorities, we decide our action. It's going to be the shared ownership and the resources and the communications piece. So we're all saying the same thing.
Right.
From a board member to a tailboard firefighter.
Right.
Or a medic or an EMT on one of the ambulances. We're absolutely on the right track. Now it's a matter of how do we tool up the effort so this isn't just another binder.
Right.
It's like, how do we make this work? And that's a couple of things I want to talk to you offline, idea wise. We're right there, I think.
Perfect. Thank you, Director. And thank you for taking the time here, Jeff, because I think it's important that we're giving the right feedback and direction. And so I think what you're hearing is the board realizes, at least the executive committee, and I think we need to talk to the broader board, we have more responsibility than we've been working towards, which is a good thing. I think we need to be more involved in providing more input and taking a lot of, because this is going to be different. And with that difference comes friction, right? But you mentioned this earlier, I'll just say it again. I think we need to try and fail, learn from that, pivot, try again. And I think that's exactly what you've developed here. So thank you. And so I think it sounds like to me from the committee, we want to move this forward to the board. So I think
Yes.
your recommended action here about endorsing this communications engagement plan framework. Yes,
Yes.
I think we're there. And let's prepare a staff report to the board. We want to get the board, we want to get them to where we're at, get their feedback, right? Let's pivot depending on that feedback and move to the next level. You and team have done a tremendous job. So thank you. I know it's always like change is never easy. And I think we should just, it happens all the time. And I think you're building the right framework and plan for us to meet that change. So thank you.
you.
So let's move forward.
Very good.
So then we'll move to the next item, which is emerging trends. And we have a project, so the fiscal impact analysis for the proposed downtown Dova project.
So this one's easy because, it checks all the win boxes. But I think it gives the board of what can be. So this is my, third of 3 in my proof of concept. Because we have been doing this for a while and we have learned these lessons in turning planning and development, Aaron and I spend a lot of time together. We can kind of read each other's mind at this point in time. So what I'm trying to do is use what we set out in the board strategic plan with the planning domains and how we think about problems, starting with service delivery, ending with communications.
Perfect.
We're now using some lessons learned and common knowledge now under the communication strategy. And I will use those words so you can get reference and how we use them to get to here, but also why specifically now are we choosing to communicate this project? So again, we're trying to get more detailed and accuracy in what we do and how we do it with the board. So with that, I'm really proud of this effort. I will tell you, this is a project that was brought to the city of Rancho Cordova Council in late December and was approved to move forward. We got awareness of it in sometime in January and go, oh, there's some things for us to think about here. So in a relatively short order, so this started as an emerging issue, an emerging trend we wanted the board to be aware of. With some of the politics and the impacts on the district, it quickly elevated to that critical issue. We then engaged staff at the city of Rancho Cordova and the development team. Politically, it took us about 4 months to get on the same page. What allowed us to get on the same page is all those strategic documents that this board has approved. Because when you all use your authority and approve policies, it does mean something. And we were able to stand on those as we were working with the developer in the city. So I'll jump straight into this. This is a project that's proposed in 66s, I think, first due. You can see all the numbers there. When we saw these numbers, we were like, This is going to have an impact on operations. It's going to create a new risk, and it's going to create a lot of new call volume that we need to figure out. So we had those communications with the city early and the proposed developers. And as we always do, we turn square footage into people, and then we turn people into calls. So these slides basically spell this out. We then compare it to the board standard adopted in the standard of cover and what our first arriving unit and our ERF have to be for us to offset that potential worst risk. So like I said, in the domains, we grabbed our ops chiefs and said, here's a project. Here's the information we get from the standard of cover. Are we thinking about this correctly? And they said, yeah, kinda. Here's a couple more details we're gonna need to figure out. Great. Incorporated that into the letters, sent it back. What we had then when we went to our resource management slide, people, tools, equipment, we were then to find the gaps in our response standard. And you can see we quickly learned that we do not have 2 trucks and a battalion chief to appropriately respond if this project were to move forward. It's not that we don't anticipate, this is in our 40-year station master plan, those resources in there. It's just this project accelerates that timing. So that creates a gap in our service plan. So we were able to talk about the project speed, about how far it's ahead of what we would anticipate, and then again, communicate back with the city of what that means for the fire service. That led to the conversation about what does the funding look like to take care of that gap. We had some conversations about what was the right financial mechanism. We've came to an understanding with the city of Rancho Cordova. They support our preferred financial mechanism. And we agreed that there is precedence for fire services using this here locally. And, we're not setting a new standard. We've communicated that to the development team. So very quickly, and I think this is where all of us should be pretty proud. And once we agreed on the financial mechanisms and agreed on the potential gap, it took us 21 days to get a consultant on board and to finalize the fiscal analysis. So I think Director Costa, you have some experience here. To bring a draft of fiscal analysis in 21 days is amazing. And it was really easy to put together. So here's our preliminary analysis. This is not final. It's going to be open to some negotiations. We were able to attribute $2.2 million to this proposed development. We anticipate the new property tax generated from this project will be about 1.7. It leaves that net annual deficit of the 470,000, which the developer should account for. We believe the right financial mechanism is a CFD. We are allowed, public safety is allowed to use CFDs for personnel costs. And as we did this analysis, we think our capital needs are well accounted for in Measure O, our impact fee, all the other EMS fee study, all of these studies that we've produced over the years. The piece that's going to be the challenge, and we've narrowed our focus with this group, is on we need to offset some of our personnel costs. So conceptually, we all agree. And we're going to give our first draft to Rancho Cordova on Monday. That is our intent. So what's next? It's actually kind of open. We don't exactly know what's next. The reason why we are communicating today is because we anticipate this will go back to council in the next 30 days. Once it goes back to council, our conditions of development will be in there, which alludes to the fact that we will require this developer to enter into this agreement. There will be some negotiations. I'm very certain those negotiations will spill out into the community and land on your doorstep, back to the emerging trends concept. A lot of details to work out. I think Rancho Cordova is a committed partner. They believe this is the right thing to do. And now we just got to work with council and you all to get to the right mechanism. So that is why the communication timing is now. We expect this to be largely out there in the next 30 days. End of the.
All right. Any questions from the committee? Director Rice?
Jeff, as you, and it may, these kind of questions may be coming up. One, this is kind of takes your breath away stuff. This is kind of next level city development. It always amazed me that Sacramento didn't secure the River Cats. And they didn't because they got outsmarted by West Sacramento. Some of my areas of concern are things that you've probably already accounted for watching, but is there any way that any kind of use or tax credits to developers, vendors, or any of that can affect property tax revenue for Metro Fire? And if so, is there a way for us to be insulated from any of that? When developers don't come in just to do it out of the goodness of their heart and they want to see the community be successful, they want to make money. And a lot of the ways that they do that, tax credits and different things that kind of come on the backs of the city or the community. Is that something that we as Metro Fire need to be concerned about? And if we are, and I see you shaking your head, that's what I wanted to hear. You're on it, you're watching for it.
Well, to be quite honest, I've been told and I've been asked to tell you all, I suspect some of those requests will come to this board. So again, back to why we're communicating now is I want you all to have pre-awareness so that if those conversations start, we do have a lot of those details, so I'm happy to assist if and when you get those questions, but absolutely, that is the next step. Mhm.
Director Weber?
Thank you. Again, great project. Yeah, this entire board, once the entire board is informed, certainly do whatever is needed. If we need to get our faces out there, our voices out there, again, with a unified message, fantastic. But I want to pivot back to a conversation you and I had in your office as far as the bigger engine. Because I'm a simpleton, the Lego block theory that you can pull out any one of these modules and plug in another one, finance, logistics, ops, any of them. And you can use the same algorithm to identify a problem, make a course change on that. So again, I don't know if the rest of, or the board and or the rest of this committee is seeing your bigger vision, how you can plug in and plug out. But I think that's brilliant that you now have a working document module that you can remove and or add stuff to and make it all very seamless. So again, great stuff there. I know I'm jumping ahead on your whole big engine theory, but I appreciate that as well.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Director. And Jeff, just correct me, I may be mistaken here, but to Director Rice's question, I think this is important. The city is a partner on this project, right? So then that would lead one to believe that they're going to then come to this board or this district to talk about how we further partner on this project.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I think that's an important piece because I think to your point, Director Rice, what we're going to see is these jurisdictions develop differently than they have over the last 50 years, which means we as a district have to pivot and support them differently than we have in the last 50 years, right? And that will it will be these conversations where it gets to, we're at 21%. And what does that mean for us to better serve them? And what does that mean for them to get a project off the ground? So I think what you've done here is fantastic. And I think just the idea of these trends, bringing these trends to the board is going to put the board in a position and this district in a position to better support the staff and then respond to our partners, right? Because the city is our partner. Those elected to represent that city would like to talk to us about not just this project, but the future. So thank you for doing this. And I think, and I know you know this, but that whole area is poised for significant growth, right? And so given that, we want to make sure we're partnering and talking early and often to our partners, which you do. But it's important that we flag early and often these trends that are going to come back to us that we want to make sure we're ready to pivot and support. So this framework is exactly what I think gets to the communication more broadly, which supports the strategic plan as the vision of this board and this district. So thank you. And I think it helps us all be on the same page. And so hopefully when we come back with other updates, this board is really ready to support and really lean in more, which I know they will be. But the more we can communicate and keep us informed, the better. This is exactly what we need to be doing. Thank you. Director Rice.
Jeff, is there a timeline? Is this a 1 to 3 year and ground starts to be broken? Is it sooner than that? Is it really in the visionary stage and build it and they will come? Kind of where are we at?
In between the two, they have some concrete plans. They state they're ready to go now. I do know from a planning and technical, they have some challenges to overcome. So if they get greenlit and it kind of works out, they can solve their problems. They would like to start as soon as possible. Just case in point, they actually wanted this decision to go to council last week, and it's delayed 3 weeks because some technical studies are needed. So I think this one, getting back to the point here, regular communication as they cross major milestones, a hurdle, coming back to this board and telling you all what we do know and don't know.
So when do you start talks with Major League Baseball? We need a team.
I will work on that one.
I saw it in the plan somewhere. Thank you, Jeff. And again, I'll just, from my view, problem solving is really about identifying the problem first, right? We can't have solutions. And so what you've done is you've built a plan that gives us that ability to do that. So thank you. And what it does is it creates a little bit of friction, which is important because I think we need it and that's how we're going to grow. And we want to get to the next level. This is the type of plan. This is the type of communication plan. And this is the type of emerging trends document that is important for this board to make well-informed decisions. So thank you and to the team for doing that. Great work. On this project though, is there any direction or any supports that you need from the board? What do you need from us at this point in time?
Nothing, but I do want to be clear here. If they get the green light, I expect that to be in front of council. I don't know if it's full council or planning commission. I don't know yet. I understand that is scheduled for late July.
Okay.
And depending on whether council gives the go or no go, again, the developers will be at your doorstep. So again, it's just a pre-awareness thing.
So given that, would we then bring something like this to the full board for full view?
It depends. If this is a standalone CFD that serves Metro only, yes, because that'll be a decision of this governing body. If it's aggregated into other CFDs and combined, in that situation, it will be administered by Rancho Cordova, approved by them. There are some rules about how this works. And then, no, that would go to Rancho Cordova for approval. And again, I think either way, we would want board 5202 and everybody leaning in on the council side to say, we need this, right? To
Okay.
provide the level of service. So I will collect more information over the next few weeks and share accordingly.
Good. Thank you. Director Rice?
Just one more thing as I was sitting there thinking about it and kind of trying to digest what I saw. Will this, and I'm going to put my ignorance out here because I haven't really followed it, impacts to Mather Field or the airport at Mather that could impact Metro Fire and fire protection out there, not just to the flight line, but potential business that comes out there. And I believe the county still provides protection out there. Is that an area that we need to anticipate is going to be impacted?
And we've already had those conversations. So I spent some time out at Mather Airport at my previous employer. The intent was always to use some of these economic development projects in Rancho to be the catalyst for the future development of Mather. So yes, and we've already seen some proposed projects similar in type and scale that you're seeing here, and not as far as long on the edges of Mather. And we're already seeing some additional development on the airfield there. So I do think it opens up some future conversations. I had a call this week I need to talk to Chief House about, but it will continue development once it starts and people get excited, it expands. That's just the nature of the industry. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions about the entire package we talked about?
No, sir.
Okay. anyone from the team that has anything to say? Anything we missed that we want to make sure we capture? All right, Deputy Chief Mitchell.
Good evening, Deputy Chief Mitchell. Thanks, President Costa and Executive Committee. I think just a couple things as I was listening to the presentation and appreciate all the work that's gone in by a lot of the folks in the audience tonight and in the thought process. One is to recognize our wins. We started back in December with a strategic planning process, and we all were in the meeting and went through it, and we realized there's some more work to be done. You all took position, and we've changed how Executive Committee interacts with the district and leadership in January. To be where we're at today and to hear what you heard tonight, to go from the story road that Jeff took you down, to go from the bigger picture of the strategic plan from the district and the vision of where we want to be, to hear about a communications and engagement strategy, one area of the strategic plan, and then to see the endpoint of a downtown Dova presentation, to go from the highest level to the boots on the ground wins, is really, really encouraging after just, I'm going to say 7 months worth of work. Some folks say, well, how come we haven't done, back in January, we had the 4 areas of communication, right? It's how we communicate with the board, how labor and management communicate, how we communicate with the district, and how we communicate out to our constituents. Although we tried some things and it wasn't going to work, the failures there allowed us to get to where we're at today. So that is a win. And it's an example of how when we do and try things as a district and how nimble we are, we can move the ball down the field pretty quickly. So I think it's to recognize we've already started working some of these and we're seeing some changes, version 3 of the document of the emerging trends, because we're still working there. But to have that change in support in 7 months is really, really exciting. And I'll just say one more thing, and you mentioned it, Director Weber, about take one thing out and plug one thing in. The other thing we do here by writing it down, take any one of our names or our people out and you plug somebody else in, they now have a plan 5, 10, 15, 25 years down the road, which is really visionary. So it's an exciting time here at Metro Fire, and appreciate all the work that's been done by you all and also by staff. It's been really, really good. So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Don't go away.
Oh, don't go away. We got a question for you, Director Weber.
So along with that thought, in 6, 7 months, again, other than Costa, a couple of knuckleheads up here, we gave you direction 2 weeks ago, exact pointed direction as far as communication with the EMS study and the fee structure and all of that. In 2 weeks, you came up with this plan, of which I saw in your office the other day. In 2 weeks, I can't imagine what we can accomplish in the next 18 months with using that. So hats off to you and the entire team. That was also exactly what we were talking about. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I'm going to turn right around and I'm going to look right over here in this space. Where's Brenda and Mark? I mean, Jeff, Aaron, Kyle, and many others involved in the room here. That's what we can do when we come together and have direction, and to get that way back when we started this ordinance discussion process for EMS back last year, November, to say we need to have an internal and external communications plan as that last little piece. The team came together and did a great job.
Mhm.
They've got internal, external, ongoing, down the road. We plugged it in, right? We used it for that. Downtown Dova, another one. So I think I appreciate that highlight. The folks in our organization nailed it again, and we'll get better next time. It's a living document. We tried some things and they didn't work, but we tried a lot of things and they went great. And there's more to come. I mean, we'll see more even on that specific item. So thank you for that.
Thank you. After 40 years, I finally figured out what you do. So thank you.
I knew what you guys did. I'll work with this guy. Thank you for coming up and providing some feedback, because I think, again, it's important, right? We're only as good as the information we get,
Yep.
and we're only as good as the questions we ask and the answers. So thank you for taking the time and for ending on a positive note. I know a lot of this stuff is about gaps. So thank you for saying, like, we've done a lot, which is absolutely right. And that's the key with failure. It's really about learning.
Yep.
Right. And so thank you for bringing us back to, we've accomplished a lot in a very short period of time. We still have a lot to do and learn, and that's going to take all of us. So thank you, Chief, for taking the time.
Yep. Bet. Thanks.
Thank you. And then Chief House, before we close, thank you for creating an environment through your leadership to let individuals step up and come up with ideas, because only these ideas is what's going to help this district move forward. And we don't know if we don't hear. So thank you for the environment you've created and the leadership you set forward. So thank you, Chief.
You're welcome. I'm going to say it back to the three of you though, because we're doing something different at the executive committee. And I think the word having grace goes a long way with this. We are going to make mistakes here. Because if you look at where Director Rice commented on the priorities, the board focus areas, although that box may be easy, we will miss it sometimes. Because what is an emerging trend? That's where we have to have open, honest dialogue in this forum and also in every other communication forum of saying, we're missing something here. We need some additional communication. What is an emerging trend? How do we define that? When we look at the downtown Dover example that we gave tonight, Jeff and your team and Chief Mitchell, all the executive team, everybody in this room. But Jeff, thank you for the 3 a.m. phone calls. That grace for us to come up with, when do we execute this to the board, right? What's the timing? When you hear this was a January project, how do we not get out in front of it, right? To politically harm some of our stakeholders potentially, but also advise the board and all of our internal members. And to your point, Director Weber, the EMS update for communication, very effective. That's an example. We will miss some. We need to have that three-way dialogue between the executive committee, executive staff, and 522. So we're working collaboratively together, understanding what the next emerging trend is and when is the appropriate time to bring it to you. Because I wrote that down, right, on this one, because I could say there's another one in the city of Citrus Heights, right? We have to quantify some information. So when is that timing? When do we bring it to you? I have a big question mark, right? That's the conversation we need to have in this forum and other forums of good, effective communication. I have to look at communication and remind all of us, right? It's really difficult to be an effective communicator because you don't control the receiver, but you also don't usually have all the facts. And I look at the success executive committee, right? Forming this, which is new, very effective, already proven to be in a short amount of time. The internal, external communication, as an example of the EMS fee update, very successful. I don't want to forget where this organization and the fire service specifically has been really effective with internal communication, especially in operation, is our chain of command. And that is being done in operations, I can tell you, the best I've seen it since the inception of Metro Fire today, with operations going down the chain of command, providing literally, I don't want to say excessive, great communication on matters that I think sometimes we've discounted before in the fire service. Now it's become important. So we're sharing that level of communication because a good idea can come from anywhere in this organization. I'm super proud of our members in the organization and the talent, skill set, and care that they provide every day, from our sworn to professional staff. This is an example of that. And we have that exercised internally and externally in this organization, literally hundreds of times a day, not just to responding to calls, but to answering the call of really exercising what is the best for the health of the organization. That is the key. And that's what effectively we're doing here today. So I'm going to throw the thank you back at you three also with the executive committee. I think it's also time that, and I didn't hear this clearly, I think it's also time to bring the strategic plan to the full board also. Is that an output for today? So I just wanted to clarify that
Yes.
on record.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chief. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting.
Chief, can I